There are two kinds of families in this world, not rich and poor, not lucky and unlucky, though luck gets mentioned often by people who don't want to say what they actually mean, but the ones who talk about money and the ones who don't. If you grew up in the second kind, money in your house was weather. It happened to you. You didn't control it, you didn't discuss it, you just looked out the window and adjusted your plans accordingly. Some weeks were fine. Some weeks your parents got very quiet and very practical, and everyone pretended not to notice the shift in pressure. Nobody handed you a roadmap. Nobody sat you down at 14 and explained how wealth actually works, how compound interest functions, or why the family down the street with the less impressive jobs somehow had more than yours. Those conversations didn't happen, not because your parents didn't love you, but because nobody had them with your parents either. Meanwhile, somewhere across town or across the country, there was a kitchen table where a different conversation was happening entirely, where a 14-year-old was being told that money is a tool, that assets put money in your pocket while liabilities take money out, and that the real goal isn't to earn more, but to eventually stop trading time for money altogether. That kid grew up with a map. You grew up with instincts, good ones, maybe hard-earned ones. But instincts and a map are not the same thing in the dark. And so when you finally find that map at 22, it does something to you that is difficult to fully describe. It reorders everything. It costs you something. And it quietly, irreversibly changes everything that comes after. The sentence that splits your life in two arrives simply. Rich people buy assets. Everyone else buys liabilities they think are assets. You read it 3 times. Something in it hums at a frequency you can't ignore. An asset, in the real definition, is anything that puts money into your pocket while you're not working. A liability is anything that takes money out. Your car is not an asset. Your house, depending on how it's structured, may not be an asset. The things that feel like symbols of success, the new car, the nice apartment, the wardrobe that says you've arrived, are, in this framework, the very machinery of staying exactly where you are. You sit with this for a few days, you look at your life through this new lens, and what you see is uncomfortable. Almost everything you'd been working toward was a liability wearing the costume of success. You weren't building anything, you were maintaining a lifestyle. The rich family's kid knew this at 14. You're finding out at 22. That's 8 years. But 22 with this information and the discipline to use it is still devastatingly early, and so you make a quiet, private, completely unsexy choice. You decide to buy your first asset before you buy your next liability. And the day you do, something shifts, not yet in your bank account, but in your identity. You are no longer just someone who earns and spends. You are someone who builds. Beyond the asset-liability distinction, there is another system running in the background that nobody from your kitchen table ever mentioned. The tax code, which is in many ways a love letter written to investors, one you were never told you could read. The wealthiest people pay a lower percentage in taxes than their secretaries, not because of a glitch, but because of architecture. Because the rules were written to reward those who invest, build businesses, and create assets. There are accounts that grow tax-free, structures that let you defer taxes for decades, ways to lose money on paper while gaining it in reality, and penalties, invisible but real, for the unaware. You grew up thinking taxes were a fixed, unavoidable subtraction that happened to your paycheck before you ever saw it. The kid from the other kitchen table grew up knowing taxes are a negotiation between what the law requires and what it allows, and the distance between those two things, over a lifetime of earning, is not thousands of dollars, but millions. Then there is time, the asset that nobody tells poor families about. If you invest $500 a month starting at 22 at an average market return of 10%, you will have approximately $2.9 million by 62. Wait until 32, just 1 decade, the decade you spent not knowing the rules, and that number drops to approximately 1.1 million. Same discipline, same monthly amount, same endpoint? 10 years of not knowing cost you $1.8 million. Time in the world of compound interest is not just money. It is the multiplier that no salary increase can replicate. The thing that turns ordinary, consistent, unsexy investing into numbers that don't look real. The rich family tells their kid about this early, not because the kid will invest at 14, but because they want the concept to feel like gravity by the time the decision is available. You didn't get that. But here is what changes the moment you truly understand it. The urgency, the genuine, non-negotiable urgency of starting now with whatever you have this week, with an amount that feels embarrassingly small and pointless. Automating a transfer that requires no willpower to activate, and then leaving it alone. You cannot get the lost years back. But you can start the next 10 years right now, and in the long arithmetic of compound time, that is everything.